When young people fall in love, they say things like, "We've only known each other for a short time, but it feels like I've known you forever. I must be very loved, because every time that I speak for 5 minutes, people say that it feels like I've been jabbering away for 5 years. Speaking of people who jabber away, podcaster Lex Friedman had a tweet where he said, "I feel like I have two voices in my head, one negative and one positive, and I just sit back and listen to their conversation like it's a podcast." Unfortunately, for the weak person, the winner of that contest will be the one who appeals to the underlying emotions involved. For low-level people, the emotion is the ultimate arbiter. For the higher-level person, it comes down to an aesthetic choice. Our values, after all, boil down to aesthetic choices. We value truth because we consider it more beautiful than lying. We value honor because we consider it more beautiful than sniveling. G.E. Moore, in his book Principia Ethica, writes, "We may mean either the attribution to an object of really beautiful qualities which it does not possess, or the feelings towards qualities which the object does possess, but which are in reality not beautiful. An emotion which is appropriate only to qualities really beautiful. Both these facts are a very frequent occurrence, and in most instances of emotion, both no doubt occur together. But they are obviously quite distinct, and the distinction is of the utmost importance for a correct estimate of values. The former may be called an error of judgment, and the latter an error of taste. But it is important to observe that an error of taste commonly involves a false judgment of value, whereas an error of judgment is merely a false judgment of fact. All our laws are merely means toward an end. That end? Values. Whoever sets the values in a society is the master of that civilization. I was reading with my son The Rule of Laws by Fernanda Piri. In it, she talks about how ancient legal systems were based on religious systems. So you had Hammurabi in Babylonia saying that the gods handed down the laws to him. Likewise, Moses on Sinai with his tablets with the 10 Commandments from God. In ancient India, Piri says, the king didn't have the power to write laws. He merely executed the laws like our modern president. The people who wrote the laws were the Brahmin class, who based it on their religious texts, the Vedas. In Indian religion, they believe in karma. That's the cosmic order. The point of the law? To apply the cosmic order to the judicial system. In other words, to make the secular system reflect the religious system. So if someone takes an eye from you, you take an eye from them. If someone knocks a tooth out of you, you knock a tooth out of them. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. The application of karma. So what the law was an attempt to bring heaven down to earth, to apply the system that you perceived up there, down here. Cicero noticed this in De Republica thousands of years ago. That a country's political system reflected its religious system. For instance, the ancient Israelites were monotheists, so they clamored for a king, a unitary ruler. Hence they demanded a monarchy under Saul, David, and Solomon. In ancient Italy, by contrast, they had a pantheon of gods, so their political system reflected them in the creation of a republic, where senators shared power like deities in a celestial senate. Cicero opined that the religious system primed you for the political system. But the point here is that in the ancient world, we had a higher set of values, ideals, archetypes. By emulating God, you were emulating an ideal of behavior. Without that backdrop, things go off kilter. Like John Adams's famous quote, "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other." So there's a cost to radical secularism, to humanism, because it abandons the higher values, the aesthetic judgments as to what's beautiful behavior based on ideals that our ancestors enshrined in their conception of the gods' behavior. Libertarians are usually primed to say, hey, we shouldn't legislate morality. Yes, we should. That's exactly what we should be doing. As I said earlier, law is merely a means to an end. The end are values, and those values are based on aesthetic judgments. If you don't base laws on morality, you have baseless laws. You have an unmoored system depegged from ideal behavior. You have a system that's groomed for corruption. If you like what you're hearing on my show, be sure to check out one of the New American's other great shows, Behind the Deep State, hosted by Alex Newman. In his show, Alex exposes the shady characters, organizations, and agendas that the elites don't want you to know about. Check it out on thenewamerican.com.